What is THAAD? Why is it going to Israel? And how does this help American national security interests? Those are all questions that need to be asked because the answers are not as clear and self-evident as they may think. Now, you've probably heard in the news, a lot of people have been talking about this new THAAD, which is basically a high altitude defense, air defense system that the United States uses. It's relatively new. We don't have a whole lot of them, actually. I think that there's a total of seven systems in existence, with another one being built at the moment. But it is apparently very successful. It has been at least one time has been used in combat and was allegedly successful. I think it was against a Houthi missile some time back. But it hasn't really been tested in a big combat environment, certainly not like the one that they're potentially going to have to face now with a lot of incoming ballistic missiles. This thing is, by the way, supposed to attack specifically high altitude ballistic missiles, some of which actually are in outer space. This is not just something like you may have seen like the Iron Dome, where you can see the missiles going up and see what they strike. This is happening up in the upper atmosphere, and in some cases even in outer space. But the real question is, what are these things supposed to do? What do we want them to accomplish? Why are they going there? And so, first of all, just to kind of give you a comprehensive view of what these things are, first of all, I want to show you, this is the official announcement by the Department of Defense, where they announced that it was being sent by a General Ryder, and it says, at the direction of the President and the Secretary of Defense Austin, they authorized these deployments of this terminal high altitude air defense. That's what THAAD stands for, to Israel. Now, here's the interesting part. It says this action underscores the United States' ironclad commitment to the defense of Israel. So first of all, we need to really ask, what is the commitment that we're ironclad about? There is no like Article 5 type treaty between the United States and Israel. Israel has fought many wars of its own in the past, 1967, 1973, 2006 at least, and certainly quite a number of other skirmishes. They have never asked the United States to fight with them. We have never volunteered and offered to fight for them. We give them $3.8 billion every year. So the question has to arise, why and suddenly are we supposed to do more than that, to where now then, not only have we already twice, but both in April and in October, used American assets, Air Force, naval, and some of our ships and aircraft have both been used to interdict incoming missiles and drones from Iran. Now then, we're adding to that, so not just naval and air power, but now then we're adding ground force interceptors to the mix as well. But this time, there's U.S. troops on the ground and potentially in harm's way. We're going to get to that in a second. But listen, we need to be really clear on this. There is no agreement that the United States is going to fight with Israel. And we've seen lots of images of late of senior American generals in command centers on the Israeli side that certainly gives the impression that we're working cooperatively with them. And now then you see that there's troops going on the ground. I think that these things are supposed to be operational within a week or so. And the stated objective is to try and help Israel defend itself against another barrage that may be coming from Iran. We're, of course, at the moment, we're waiting to find out what Israel is going to do in response to the October 1st attack that Iran did in retaliation to the assassination in their capital by the Israeli side. So a lot of pieces up in the air and moving. And I want to, first of all, just kind of give you a little bit of an understanding of what the THAAD system is, how it works, what its capabilities and limitations are. Here is a real brief vision from WION News that explained that just a little while ago.
The THAAD, or Terminal High Altitude Area Defense System, is a critical part of the U.S. military's layered air defense systems, and it adds to Israel's already formidable anti-missile defenses. The THAAD complements other defense systems like the Patriot system, which Israel recently retired from. It can neutralize short, medium, and intermediate range ballistic missiles, making it a versatile part of missile defense. It can also intercept missiles during terminal phase descent or re-entry by intercepting with a hit-to-kill technology.
And I want to actually show you what that means. She mentioned in there that this is part of an integrated air defense systems. It can be a standalone, but it can also be integrated with other air defense capabilities. And you see on this screen here, just kind of give you a quick orientation there. You see on the upper left and upper right, you see an orange ballistic missile, a cruise missile, an aircraft, and an unmanned aerial vehicle. Those would be enemy targets. And that this system, whether it's the Patriot system, the IRIS-T system, or the THAAD system, they all integrate and can work cooperatively together. So some missiles and some platforms are, designed to hit relatively slow-moving cruise missiles, also low-flying. You certainly have drones and aircraft that are in the intermediate elevations and altitudes. And then you have the THAAD system itself, which is a PAC-3 specific kind of PAC-3 missile, which is the one that's going to fire in that ballistic missile on the upper left-hand side. And one of the things she mentioned there, which is not commonly understood by a lot of people, is that this, unlike the Iron Dome, which their interceptor missiles actually have an explosive charge in the nose cone, these don't. The PAC-3 interceptors for the THAAD system have hit to kill. You have to physically hit the incoming missile, which is not exactly easy. But at least so far, the claim has been that, at least in the tests and in the one combat experience, that the thing has a significant success rate. I'm going to show you, we were showing it a minute ago. I'm going to bring that back up, Gary, if you can, that this video of this is what it looks like. So when it comes out of the missile carrier, the launcher, which I showed that previous diagram there, this is the missile actually coming out. And in this was actually what's called Juno versus PAC-3. The Juno was a ballistic missile that was fired. Then the PAC-3 missiles, the interceptors, are the ones that are going to come out. And what you're going to see here in a second, and there'll be a lot clearer image. I think this one here, I'm sorry, the next one's going to be the clearest one. You'll see that this is the Juno rocket, and then you see coming out of nowhere that little, that smaller one comes out there. It actually physically hits the incoming missile, and that's where you get the big explosion. That's the warhead there, right there. You see that small little white dot there, basically the little twig looking thing. It's going to hit the Juno missile, and then the warhead on the missile itself will detonate. That's how these things are supposed to work. So it's really remarkable technology. But as I'm going to mention here in a little bit, there aren't that many of them. So we'll talk about what that means in a second. First of all, let's talk about the manning. We've talked about the missiles itself. Let's talk about the manning. It's going to take 100 Americans at least to operate this. The system is made up of 8 launchers. Each launcher has 8 tubes on it, which you can see in that picture there. And these troops are going to almost certainly be augmented by additional contractor people. They always are, because you can't just have troops go without support and backup. So there's probably going to be a lot of people that have to go into Israel to support these things. And when President Biden was asked about this, he gave a really odd reaction, I'll say. He was on his way somewhere, and he was actually out at the tarmac when he was asked this.
Why did you decide to give the permission for the THAAD to be deployed in Israel?
To defend Israel.
Any worries about it?
Now, if you couldn't hear the question because the engine's in the background, the guy said, "Hey, why are we sending American THAAD troops and American THAAD missiles to Israel?" And he just said, "To defend Israel." And they said, "Oh, are you worried about that? Or does that give you any concerns?" No comments, no answers beyond that left out. Listen, we have to be clear-eyed on this and what the intent and the purpose of this is. These missiles, while they may be very effective, they're also relatively limited. So a basic load comes with 8 missiles. These missiles are about $4 million a pop. So if you're talking about something like the last time, there were 200 missiles that were fired by Iran. The time before that, there was a combination of 350 total missiles and drones that were mentioned before. But Iran has the capacity to launch hundreds, plural, of these missiles, and they can come in and just overwhelm any system, whether it's the Iron Dome, the Sling, the Arrow system, or our THAAD system. You can see, I mean, if every single interceptor had a 1-to-1 kill ratio, then you're going to have the max capability to knock out 48. That's if you hit everything. And it's uncertain because it hasn't been tested in these environments. We don't know if the hit ratio is going to be that high. But you got to ask, then what? So if you fired off 48 $4 million missiles in one barrage, then what are you going to do next? Because listen, America only has, I think, 6 or 7 of these things total in the inventory. It's not like we have thousands of these missiles sitting around that we can send them all to Israel, because we've got to have missiles for our own. So what hasn't been discussed in public is how many interceptor missiles that go along with that. Was it just the one battery? Was it just the one basic load? That's kind of important, because if we don't have that many of them, then the question is going to be, what about our national security, and will this weaken our own theater high altitude defense? Those are questions that I think we deserve answers to, instead of just being waved off by the president. Now, there's also some, I guess, misinformation or lack of understanding of what these things can actually accomplish. Now, there was a former Admiral Syring that was on Fox News that was asked about this. I think it was Fox News. But he says that they're mainly there to buy time.
I would look at the missile defense systems that are in the theater and now THAAD being deployed to the region as de-escalatory in nature, in terms of it is purely a defensive system. It is clearly up to Iran to stop the aggression. And what the missile defense systems allow us to do is buy time and make sure that there's not catastrophic damage from the 2 previous large-scale attacks. So this is forward thinking on our part to deploy the THAAD battery with our soldiers in case Iran decides to escalate with even more ballistic missile attacks and longer range threats.
You know, everybody loves everything to be a deterrent. We want to scare Iran and think that they're going to be deterred by that. Listen, as I just told you, there's only 48 of these missiles in the basic combat load. So it can interdict some of these missiles that they have. But if you overwhelm the system with numbers, and especially for Israel, if the next round, which Professor Ted Postel on our show a week or so ago said that in his view, the most likely and certainly the most dangerous course of action for Israel, if they launch a big strike and actually do hit something that's lethal in Iran and precipitate another round coming back, we would probably be a combination of cruise missiles, of drones, and ballistic missiles that could overwhelm all of the systems combined, because there's just more incoming targets than there are interceptor missiles that could be knocking them down. And then that would make Israel extremely vulnerable. Iran is aware of this. And so they certainly don't like to see that system in there, but they also understand the system's limitations as well as its capabilities, that it can limit and minimize some. So that may make them say, okay, well, then we'll fire 48 more missiles than we were already planning to soak up all of your interceptor missiles there. And then those will no longer be effective. So it's not going to deter Iran from doing something, because they already know they have to go against air defense and missile interceptor capabilities that Israel has. So that's not going to do that, is what we're thinking. But then the bigger issue for the United States is, what happens if those become a target, especially the missile launchers? It's a complete valid military target. If you're at war with somebody and they have missile interceptors and you want your missiles to get through, you're going to attack the air defense systems. That's a standard thing that every military does. If Israel goes in to attack Iran in a coming missile strike, they're likely to go after air defense sites as well. They're likely to go after the missile launchers, so that when their missiles come in, they have a chance to succeed. There's no reason to think that Iran wouldn't do the same thing. Now, one has to wonder, do some people view these as the classic tripwire, meaning that you put American troops on the ground there in a missile defense capacity in a combat zone, thinking that if Iran does attack them, then they'll be at war with the U.S., so maybe they won't. Maybe Iran won't do that then. Maybe they'll be deterred by, well, we can go against Israel, but we can't go against Israel and the United States, so we're not going to do that. That's a gamble. And frankly, one that disturbs me and angers me, because you're using American lives as guinea pigs, or really bait is probably a better way to put it. Hoping that they don't, or in some cases, maybe being glad that if that does happen, then we have all the justification we need to go to war with Iran. And that's one of the reasons why I'm so emphatic in saying we need to slow this train down, and this needs to go to Congress to debate so that the American people get a say in this. Do we want to go to war with Iran? Because let me make something really clear here. Don't think that you're just going to lob a few missiles at Iran like we've done at Syria in the past and Libya in the past, and then that's just going to be the end of it, and they're just going to collapse like a house of cards. This is not the same enemy. Iran is not Syria. Iran is not Libya. They have the capacity in this enormous country to do a lot of damage. If we get into a war with Iran, it's not going to go well. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be short, because unless you go in on the ground in a massive invasion of 500,000 troops or so, you can't defeat them militarily and politically. You can blow a bunch of stuff up, and we got all kinds of firepower, and that knowledge has deterred Iran from being as provocative as we would like them to, as we don't want them to be. They have been deterred because they know that we do have the capacity to blow up a bunch of stuff, and they don't want that. They don't want to get into a war with the U.S. But if one is foisted on them, i.e., if they're attacked, and then they're faced with either responding and striking back against those killing them, or backing down, there's a good chance that they will fire back, and then suddenly we now have the war we never wanted. And once one starts, this is the point I'm trying to get through, it is damn well impossible to get it over in any time short, at a lower cost, because now then you've taken that off the table. Because once you take the restraints off and you're killing and being killed back and forth, now then the thing takes on a life of its own. And there is a very real possibility that this thing could continue to escalate. And now then you're in an open-ended conflict. I mean, just take a look at the Houthis down in the Red Sea area, down in Yemen. Saudi Arabia tried for a decade to quell them using all kinds of American assistance, and they never succeeded. And Iran is much bigger, much more powerful, has much more capacity. And so if little Yemen can continue to fight for a full decade against unmatched air power from the Saudi Arabian side, what do you think the Iranians are going to be able to do? They'll be able to continue and sustain a long time. And how many troops are we going to sacrifice? How many of our ships may get knocked down? How much oil may be interdicted if they should shut down and mine the Strait of Hormuz? You see, all of these negative consequences will just keep going up. And these are the things that need to be discussed now before any action is taken. Because once an American gets killed, it is near impossible politically for any president of any party at any time to ever not say, we're going to go right back after the perpetrators. We should, because it's wise to do that. But what's much wiser is to get our troops out now before. I've been telling you forever that all of our troops in Iraq and Syria, Jordan, all these different areas in the Middle East are a strategic vulnerability. They don't add to our security. They just act as points that could draw us into a war. Now we've added another point of vulnerability. Those missiles are not going to stop a war in the THAAD system that we're in the process of deploying. They're not going to stop a war. They can provide some marginal benefit to the Israeli side, but they come at a great risk for the United States, because that could pull us into a war and we don't even get a chance to weigh in. That's one of the reasons we're making this video today, is because I want to put ourselves on the record and talk for, on behalf of, anyway, the American people, that we don't want a war. And if there's going to be one, I want to have a chance to weigh in before it happens. So that's why we have Congress. That's why the Constitution says that only the Congress has the power to take the United States into war. Because right now, things are kind of going on autopilot. You saw President Biden there just kind of like hand wave this, well, it's to help Israel. Okay. Okay. How does that help us? Why does Israel need it? They have this allegedly fantastic triple system with the Iron Dome, the sling, and the arrow system. Why do they need the THAAD system? No one asked that question. I'm asking why. It's going to be of marginal help, but it's not decisive. And they have this system that we've helped fund and that we've helped send these interceptors for. Just give them some more interceptors. Why do you need to put American boots on the ground? That's one of the big questions I want to ask, because it certainly looks suspiciously like some people want us to be on the ground there to potentially go into a war. I mean, I like to think that that's a little over the top, and no one in the government would actually put American troops in harm's way, in the bullseye, potentially an enemy missile onslaught that could get them killed, to give us the justification to expand a war. I'd like to think that that's not. I hope it's not, but it looks suspicious. I think that you have to admit, because there is no real reason to put American troops on the ground there. There is no reason to do that. We've already had 2 aircraft carrier strike groups in the region right now. So there's already lots of combat power there. Why do you need to put them on the ground? That's a question that I'd like an answer to. And we'll see if we're going to get it. We're going to keep following this issue for you. We're also going to have a show on with the famous Suleiman this afternoon, who's going to be joining us for the first time. And we're going to be talking about that Israel has vowed just today, Minister of Defense Galat, that there will be a response coming soon, precise, and deadly. And we're going to talk about all the ramifications of that, well beyond what's going on with just this THAAD deployment. And we will keep you appraised of all the developments that happen in this situation. And we ask you to like and subscribe, and look forward to seeing you this afternoon on Daniel Davis Deep Dive.